The next speaker, Mr. Shailendra Nigam. He is the Managing Director of Seagull Marketing Services Private Limited. Welcome, sir. Mr. Shailendra Nigam.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Suresh, Mr. Luther, and other members on the panel. I shall try and be very brief, and I'll just introduce the points because I said we are running out of time, so I won't elaborate on the points that I wish to highlight. So the topic that I have been asked to speak on is primarily the evolving scenario of overseas recruitment in the COVID context and the post-COVID context. So, as entrepreneurs, all people in the recruitment industry, we are basically entrepreneurs and we are optimistic people. An entrepreneur is an optimist. So a crisis, we must not let a crisis pass us by. Every opportunity that a crisis presents, every crisis is an opportunity to better and to better things. So I think we must be prepared for what is about to come. COVID is not going to stay here forever. Humans are very resilient. I guess 1 year, 2 years, whatever, but life will return back to normal. So this is a temporary phenomenon. It's not going to change life forever. It's just the interim that we need to worry about. So as far as overseas recruitment is concerned, there are two parts to it. One is what is happening overseas, and second is what is happening in India. So let's first talk about overseas. Overseas, again, there are two parts. We are basically focused more on the Gulf, and I'll talk of areas outside the Gulf. So the Gulf future doesn't look very bright with oil prices going down. And it's a given that, most of us agree that the wages will come down. Whether the Gulf remains lucrative enough for Indians to go and work in the Middle East is something that only time will tell, as the wages will get impacted by what percentage. Within the Middle East, there is going to be nationalization. There's going to be conservative hiring, and the Middle East itself is unstable given what's been happening in the last few years. It's not a very stable part of the world today. On the other part, when we reach out to other destinations, there have been various talks. So from my experience, what I have seen is the world doesn't really know what India can offer. So if you go and talk to somebody in X country, the first thing they know is, what can I get from India? Then again, the second thing is benchmarking those skills. How does a plumber from India compare to a plumber available in Poland? And at what rates can I get the person? So there are three things. A large part of the world is unsure of what is available. We need to tell them that India has this to offer and that to offer. And a plumber as defined in a Western country and a plumber as defined in India are two different definitions by and large. So there's a huge gap there. And then again, the final part is at what rates are these people available? So when we reach out to the world, there's a lot of educating the Western world that needs to be done by the fraternity and by the government themselves. The other part which was touched upon was unskilled and everybody has a skill. I ask you, what is wrong with unskilled? Are they not people who work for a living? They work probably as hard as you and me. And they are needed out there. In any project, you will have out of 100 people, there will be 15, 20% A grade, another 30% B grade people, and the balance will be the assistants and the helpers. So that is a skill. The unskilled is also a skill that is required. And I don't think we must shun them or we must give them lesser priority. I think that forms a great percentage of the recruitment that does happen. So moving on from that part, how we tap that, how the government helps us tap that is something that time will tell. Moving to internally within India, our business is highly regulated and regulated from the point of view of protection of the immigrant, and there are more restrictive rather than promoting underlying rules and regulations. So the government obviously has taken it as a social impact. Recruitment has a social impact, whereas recruitment fraternity, we are basically in it. We are entrepreneurs. We are in it for gaining some money as capitalists. So there are two different scenarios here. government has had various promotional schemes. They have the e-migrate, you have skill development. These have been fairly largely data collection schemes. They have helped to a certain extent to regulate, but they have been fairly largely data collection schemes. On the other side, when you talk about associations, how we can deal with the government to help us promote these businesses, we need to form one national association. There are various associations that we have, so we need to evolve and have one national association, one voice that we can take our objectives, our requirements to the government as one voice. The government must realize that markets are generally better at mobilizing and allocating resources than the government. So there is an artificial allocation of resources by the government due to the regulations that they put in place, rather than let a free market scenario evolve. And that's very much an example with the MRW, with the rates that are there. It's the market will decide for itself at what rates people will go and what rates people are required at, rather than an artificial imposition by the government that these are the regulations we are putting in place. So there must be a freer promotion of recruitment trade. And as we've been talking about, some people have said that the protector of immigrants should be sitting in overseas countries. I would like that office to be designated as a promoter of immigrants. We have to promote immigrants going overseas. So I'd like to see some supportive measures happening. Protection, definitely, yes, that's an objective, a social objective, and that's why the Office of the Protector of Immigrants was put forward. But there must be another department, a parallel department, which should be promoting immigrants. That's going to be the need of the hour with what the world is going to see. The other part about Swadesh movement, you are capturing the skills, the database of people who are coming back, recognizing that they have skills. Taking this discussion forward, if you say people are going overseas and getting skilled versus compared to teaching them in a classroom and teaching them in the skill development centers, why don't you look at people going overseas to gain and learning these skills, and they come back, it can be applied in India, or they can go back again and again. As been talking, an immigrant goes back up and forth 3-4 times in his life, probably more, and generation to generation. So we must recognize the fact that people going overseas are learning a skill which can be compared or could be better than what is taught in classroom setups for about 2 or 3 months. So I will leave, I will conclude here that, when COVID lockdown is lifted, there are larger opportunities for us. It is for us to recognize where these opportunities will be coming from, and during this period, preparing for those opportunities, and during this time, how we can evolve as a fraternity into one national body that we can represent with the government to better support the industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nigam. And what you said is that correctly, rather than a crisis, and let us hope for that actually the recruitment fraternity come together and we should bargain for our rights through the government and all. Thank you.
Seagull International Human Resource Consultants. Bridging the gap between dream and reality.